For finance leaders of healthcare organizations, closing the books is about both speed and accuracy. So if disconnected spend data is slowing the close cycles, compliance becomes open to interpretation, and financial and patient care implications occur. However, when spend is captured in real time and policies are enforced automatically, the close moves faster. You can see, control, and optimize spend without adding burden to administrators or finance teams. When finance, operations, and compliance work from one source of truth, your staff stays focused on delivering high-quality patient care. Faster close, lower risk, and compliance you can stand behind. That's SAP Concur,